Hello, I am Terry Lynn Hamby and I am the Chemical Hygiene Officer for Atlantic Cape Community College. This is an overview of the Chemical Hygiene Plan with details that pertain to your specific duties and environment. The Chemical Hygiene Plan is a state-required document that is composed from the OSHA standards for laboratory hazards. It is a guideline for safe lab practices and to alert you to potential hazards. Anyone who has access to our laboratories is required to receive training. The Chemical Hygiene Plan is to alert you to potential hazards, how to protect yourself, and ensure the safety of staff, students, and visitors on campus while protecting college property.
The Executive Director of HR authorizes the Chemical Hygiene Officer to oversee and implement the plan. The Executive Director also acts as a liaison between the Chemical Hygiene Officer and the President, who has the ultimate responsibility for the plan. The Chemical Hygiene Officer works closely with the Compliance Officer to make sure that the Chemical Hygiene Plan works with other compliance plans such as the hazardous waste and provides perspective on inspections. Faculty are responsible for instructing students in the lab about safe lab practices and enforces these practices. Lab staff need to follow safety practices and alert others in the lab when these practices are not being performed. Non-lab staff need to be aware of their surroundings while working in laboratories and follow safe lab practices. A few standard operating procedures when working in the laboratory include, but are not limited to, no food or drink in the labs. This includes gum, mints, and cough drops. Stress to students the importance of good housekeeping, wiping down work areas before and after the experiment, washing equipment and glassware as needed, and returning all reusable materials to their proper location. Only a lab book or notebook should be on the lab benches during the experiment. Book bags and other items must be stored properly in the designated areas. Glass boxes are to be used for any broken or damaged glass items, not the trash or recycling containers. Safety equipment is provided based on the hazards in the lab. Know the locations of these items and go over them with your students the first week of lab. When using Bunsen burners or other equipment, please do not leave them unattended. When possible, ask for assistance if you must leave the lab. If someone is not available, time your leave with the break. In the event of an evacuation, shut off all equipment and Bunsen burners and vacate the room. Be sure to lock the door when you leave. Remind students to wash their hands before leaving the lab and be sure you do the same.
Personal protective equipment is provided by the college for all employees and students. Items required will vary by task. The most basic form of personal protective equipment is wearing proper attire to the laboratory. Sturdy shoes that cover the feet. In chemistry, long pants and skirts must be worn that completely cover the legs. Loose clothing, jewelry should not be worn when possible or tied back. Safety goggles or glasses are provided in each laboratory. When using chemicals and they are present in the room, students should be wearing safety glasses or goggles, even when not actively working on an experiment. Gloves and aprons are also provided in each lab.
Types of chemicals that can be found on campus include highly toxic chemicals. A chemical is classified as highly toxic when the lethal dose is equal to or less than 50 milligrams per kilogram when ingested orally, 200 milligrams per kilogram for topical exposure, and 200 parts per million or 2 milligrams per liter for inhalation exposure. Mercuric nitrate, sodium dichromate, and bromine are examples of this. A chemical is classified as highly flammable when its flash point is less than 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We have many of these on campus. A few examples are acetone, methanol, cyclohexane, ethanol, and pentane. Highly reactive chemicals usually are reactive with other chemicals or substances, such as hydrogen peroxide and its reactions with metals, or sulfuric acid and its violent reaction with water. Highly corrosive chemicals are acids and bases with a molarity greater than 1 molar. Some that we have on campus would be ammonium hydroxide, sodium hydroxide, hydrochloric acid, and sulfuric acid. Contact hazards encompass chemicals that can be found in all of these classifications and are any chemical that can damage the skin or eyes with contact. Reproductive toxins include lead and mercury compounds and chloroform. Some reproductive toxins can cause the loss of the baby, while others cross the placenta and cause birth defects, and other types may damage the ability to conceive.
All containers are to be properly labeled. The primary container should have the manufacturer's label. For secondary containers and solutions, the container must still contain the name and concentration of the chemical or solution, CAS numbers for the primary ingredients, date of transfer, and initials. Hazardous waste labels must be completed by the person starting the bottle. The label is to contain the ingredients or lab and experiment number in the case of unknowns, the date started, and initials. Some control measures we utilize at Atlantic Cape are signs and posters to provide information and to alert you to hazards, safety data sheets, exposure monitoring when needed. Inventory and incident report forms are kept for up to 30 years.
In the event of a spill, if needed, evacuate and install the spill signs on the hallway side of the door. Call security to contact the chemical hygiene officer or compliance officer. If there is no immediate danger, contain the spill and gather information such as type of chemical and the amount that was spilled. Contact the chemical hygiene officer or compliance officer.
Your responsibility goes beyond making sure you follow proper procedures. It is also your responsibility to inform and enforce lab safety rules within your laboratory class. One way to show students the importance of the safety rules is to model proper lab personal protective equipment and procedures. Enforcing the rules and asking uncompliant students to leave will also help them learn to respect the rules.
If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at thamby@atlanticcape.edu. You can also call me at 609-343-5025 or stop by my office in the STEM building, S216. Thank you.